Apple. It is garbage technology. Let me fix. It took every ounce of my patience to not destroy all my equipment today. All of it. All of it. Like, start fucking scratch. I hate this fucking thing. It's unreal. Unfucking real. You can't even use pictures between devices. What is the point of Apple? What is the fucking point if you can't transfer pictures between an iPad on the same stupid garbage Apple account and with a phone? Like, a phone and an iPad are incompatible now because idiots make shit technology. It makes no sense. It's fucking stupid. You know, and you know what I'm doing sitting here? Because there is no force update for iCloud to sync. You just have to go, whoa, whoa, and then hope it fucking catches. Whoa. You pull down on the pictures, and then you hope it updates. That's all they got. That's it, the whole thing. You know how many times I tried that? Plugged in. Oh my God. Oh my God. Absolute, complete, and total fucking garbage. Garbage. Unreal. All right, team. We're going to have to skip some of the good mornings. I'm in a great mood other than stupid Apple. Tim Apple. What an asshole. What a fucking asshole. Imagine you're Steve Jobs. Your wife has sold the fucking country out to propagandists and fucking brainwashers. That dumb bitch has to fucking go too. And then your fucking CEO, who's a supply chain expert, that's why he's in charge of all these fucking devices, because he was good at supply chain optimization. This fucking loser is building nothing but garbage. Garbage. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I look, they quit making cars. They're not going to make cars because they're too stupid. Imagine cars. They were trying to make cars. They can't make a fucking phone. They were trying to make cars. Oh, Tim Apple, you fucking loser. What a loser. Unreal. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. We got to get rid of this fucking company. It used to be a great American company. It used to make you proud. It's the Joe Biden of fucking companies now. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Unreal. All right. Good morning, all. I hope everyone's doing fine. I'm doing fine, other than stupid Apple. Other than Apple, I'm doing fine. Okay. Switch to the dark side. No, for real. For real. I want absolute Darth Vader choke abilities for Apple product designers. I want that. I want to be able to just go, you motherfucker. You fucking waste my time like this. Clunk, done. That's what we got to do. We got to do it. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Now I have to go learn, because I can't keep living like this. I can't live with this garbage shit technology. So I'm going to have to go and learn a new operating system, which I hate. Like, I hate it, and now I got to go learn it. Unreal. Unfucking real. Anyway, we're going to live. We're going to live, guys. We're doing fine. And by the way, the sun's up, right? We got no problems with the sun. A cell phone might not work, but the fucking sun operates fine. So that's great. And just as amazingly, Bitcoin is running without any troubles. It's not made by Apple. So it works. It fucking works. So it's great, right? Let's just have a coffee and forget Apple even existed. There we go. There we go. All right. Let's get into some fake news. All right. I got one. This is from the New York Times Magazine. The Ethicist. Here's the question. Is shoplifting okay if the shop owner is awful? Answer, yes, sure. Why not? Why not? This is great. Bloomberg admitting the Virtue economy is over. The DEI and ESG movements are well intentioned, but executing on the vision has always been a problem. So it's all done. This one's pretty good too. So speaking of ESG stuff, this comes from the Politico newsletter this morning. If you don't subscribe to the Politico newsletter, how would you know about this great news? Listen to this. Whitewashing weapons. If you're an asset manager looking to put money into EU companies with a good track record on the environment, society, and corporate governance, you might want to consider weapons manufacturing. Are you laughing? You shouldn't be, because that's what the European Commission will say in a few hours when it unveils its new defense industrial strategy, according to a draft copy and slideshow obtained by Morning FS. So what? Question mark. ESG investment is generally reserved for companies that do good in the world, but it turns out that the society aspect of ESG quite happily includes weapon manufacturers, even though these tailored investments are supposed to promote activities that cause no significant harm. There you go. So it's going to be fine. Guys, ESG, it's not exactly dead, like Bloomberg says. In Europe, you're going to have lots of opportunities to allocate into weaponry. So it's perfect. It's perfect. That's what we needed. This is so good, too, from CNN. The U.S. economy is so strong. It's so strong, everyone, that there might not be any rate cuts in 2024. It's the American economy is so strong. It's so strong. We're doing great. Everyone, this is what you needed. All right, we finally figured it out, right? Do vaccines work? What's going on with the vaccines? Did they kill people? Did they save people? All mysteries are now solved, according to Medical News Today. This is all you needed to know, guys. Here's the headline. I'm going to try and I gotta calm myself down before I try and deliver this line. This is the answer, everyone. Switching arms for vaccines could help boost your immunity. You just got to switch arms, guys. So everyone, when you're going to get your second vaccine, say, no. Just remember which arm you got it in the first time and then get it in the other arm. You're going to be great. You're going to be great. That's all we ever needed to do is switch arms. That's why they were two shots. You have two arms, right? So you switch arms. And then you go back to the other one, and then maybe you say, "Hey, what about put it in my leg?" Maybe that's what's going to happen next, right? Maybe put it in my leg. Switch your arms. Come on, so easy. This one's good too. Daily Mail writing: Biden administration admits flying 320,000 migrants secretly into the U.S. to reduce the number of crossings at the border has national security vulnerabilities. So they're not even making them walk anymore. They're going to send airplanes down and pick them up in Mexico. So good. Rolling Stone writes, Trump's White House was awash in speed and Xanax. So I guess this is the continuation of the Trump's White House had more drugs than the Biden White House. Really good stories. Really, really good stories. This one's great. New California bill would make illegal immigrants eligible for first-time homebuyer loans. Perfect. It's so good. It's so good. All right. Now we got a couple here on the Trump judgment from yesterday. Some really funny ones. I don't know. Look, guys. There might not be any funny shows left on TV. There might not be any good writers for these comedy shows. Some people say comedy's dead. All you need to do is just tune in to any of the liberal news channels, and it's better than any sitcom. It's better than any show. It's better than anything you can hope for in terms of comedy. And we got some really good ones here. So The Atlantic is just going to start us off. You got to see the videos of a lot of this, though. The headlines don't quite do the mental illness justice, but, we'll do our best. So The Atlantic here, this is Steve Jobs' dumb wife's paper. says Ketanji Brown Jackson's role in white supremacy. So she she was one of the Supreme Court judges who sided with Trump. How the freshman justice sided with Trump and is poised to become the biggest threat to democracy. So now it's her. It's a real headline. It's a real headline. It's a real headline, I think. So there you go. So there's a bunch of other ones, right? So here's CNN writing, justices ruled Trump couldn't be removed from Colorado's ballot, a sweeping ruling that brushed aside whether he is an insurrectionist. It brushed it aside, everyone. Here's my favorite. Okay. This is from, so it was a 9-0 decision, just so you know, right? So it was 9-0. All judges agreed. It didn't work. And we got this woman here. Her name is Manisha Sinha. Manisha Sinha. And she's the Draper Chair in American History at the University of Connecticut. So what does she have to say about the 9-0 judges? You know, she says that the they got it wrong. She says they got it wrong. They got it wrong. She knows. Manisha Sinha is, I guess, just a great expert on constitutional law in America, right? She's published books, everyone. She published books, The Rise and Fall of the Second American Republic. So she says that as our country confronts another crisis of American republicanism, unleashed by former President Donald Trump and his followers' reluctance to accept the results of the 2020 election, we are rediscovering the importance of the Reconstruction era 14th Amendment, right? This fucking illiterate comes around and tries to argue that, no, I'm right. Not 9 Supreme Court judges, stupid. I'm not even a judge. She's just a prof. Too good. So Manisha Sinha, right? Here's more. We sued Trump in Colorado. The Supreme Court's ruling did not exonerate him. No, it didn't. It did not exonerate him, everyone. No way. And this is another one of these people, Noah Bookbinder. And he's another one of these guys who's not a Supreme Court judge. Legal opinions, right? Conventional wisdom regarding Supreme Court's decision allowing Donald Trump to remain on the Colorado state primary is that this is a big victory for the former president. It's a big victory, right? And the decision does allow Donald Trump's campaign to continue, but we'd argue that his perspective misses a key part of the ruling, and one that is far less positive for the GOP frontrunner. So there's a whole series of people out there trying to say that Trump actually lost the 9-0 decision. He actually lost. Okay. He lost, everyone. That's what they're trying to go with here. It's quite good, quite excellent, right? We urge Americans and legal experts alike to look at the court's decision closely. Look at it closely, Bookbinder says. What the court did not do was overturn or even substantively dispute the determination that the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol was an insurrection and that Donald Trump incited the insurrection. This was not an exoneration, everyone. It wasn't. It's not. I swear to you, it's not. It's not an exoneration, right? We got more of them. I mean, it's just all the whole time on television last night was people trying to say, no. Trump actually lost. He lost. He lost. Okay. On Trump qualification, the Supreme Court got it right and blew it at the same time. This is another one from MSNBC. Then we get the, George Conway, right? George Conway comes out. They were terrified. He's blaming it on Trump bullying the Supreme Court. And he says that basically they were afraid for their life. That's why they gave it to Trump. Too good. All right. We got some good Phil Bump ones too. Phil, of course, has to weigh in, right? Trailing Donald Trump and without seeing traction on policy, the president's team leans into his argument about democracy itself. So this is about Biden, right? He's got more though. He had 3. This is one of those days where they needed a three bagger from Phil Bump. He had to write 3 psychologically manipulative pieces yesterday in order to keep I guess, democracy afloat, right? The whole thing rests on Phil Bump's shoulders now. All of it, right? Everything. Analysis by Phil Bump. This one's great. A fifth of Trump supporters think he committed a serious crime. A New York Times poll, New York Times, right, says that a fifth of Trump supporters believe he committed a serious crime, right? And this is what he says. Juries will, or perhaps may, decide whether former President Donald Trump committed serious federal crimes. He faces trial in Washington, D.C., Florida on felony charges, and unless he's reelected to the presidency or cuts a deal with prosecutors, those will result in verdicts adjudicating his guilt. So Bump still thinks they're going to win the other cases. Or I don't think he actually believes they're actually going to win these, but he's got to, argue. So he goes on to say, blah, 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 Trump. And this is pretty good, though. Trump's politics have been rooted in whataboutism since the outset. For every allegation against him and his supporters have a, well, what about counterexample, drawing an often unfair comparison with someone on the left, right? So it's the whole campaign is rooted in whataboutism. Thanks, Phil. Very good. And we're not done. This is the final Phil Bump, keep democracy on the rails, PSYOP operation from the Washington Post from yesterday. What happened on January 6, 2021, and in the weeks before is very obvious. It's very obvious, everyone. It's very obvious, right? But our government institutions are unwilling or unable to address it. The institutions of government aren't going to protect democracy. Phil Bump is. Phil Bump is. It's all Phil Bump. There is no real question about the intent of the riot at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, he writes. Donald Trump made clear his interest in undermining the results of the 2020 election for months beforehand, sowing misleading and dishonest stories about the reliability of mail-in ballots in a pandemic election year that would undoubtedly see huge numbers of them. Before Election Day, there was reporting that he would try to leverage the skepticism he had sown to claim victory before the votes could be counted, which is what he did. So good. All right. So here's the best part, too. There was even other ones. You had Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper was really, really concerned, and he was trying to argue for democracy, too. He's trying to help save democracy with Phil Bump. And he says that Donald Trump participated in an erection. And you had Nikki Haley there just thirsting. And so everyone's making this joke about Nikki Haley, who also had a tweet yesterday saying she'll give it every inch. She'll give it every inch, right? Lots of fun stuff happening there. So it just goes on and on this way, right? Every one of the stations had a meltdown. Here's another one from CNN. Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong. Unfortunately for America. And then here's the best. So one of the things that you noticed if you watched all the comedy yesterday is there's kind of like a level of liar that will lie about anything, right? So it's not the usual suspects they were able to get to come out on television last night. It's a special type of liar. It's the Jamie Raskins, the Eric Swalwells, the Peter Schiffs. There's only a certain amount of them that are like that, right? And Jamie Raskin came out yesterday and said he's working with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Eric Swalwell, and a bunch of these other guys. So again, it's the people who will lie about anything. They're all getting together. They're going to make a team. That was their plan yesterday on CNN. And they're going to defend democracy by fighting fascism, they said, right? It was perfect. It was really great. Really, really great. Indeed, you had Glenn Greenwald and others having a good time saying, sometimes there are moments in politics when you have to put humanitarian concerns first. And watching this, I'm honestly worried for the emotional well-being of cable TV liberals, devastated not just by the fact that Trump can run, but that the SCOTUS ruling was unanimous. Indeed, you had a lot of people who were just not having it, right? Scott Adams says, CNN is hilarious tonight. These poor viewers, guests are saying it's an objective fact, and everyone agrees that Trump is an insurrectionist. No pushback. Never charged, never convicted, publicly called for peace. The other evidence is weird interpretations of what words mean. Their viewers will never know. It's too good, guys. It's too good. So there you go. There was one of the best. So in that same group of Raskin and all these other people, you got to put Keith Olbermann, right? Keith Olbermann had an amazing run yesterday. It was really good. So he comes out and he says, Glenn Greenwald writes, the father of MSNBC calling on the Supreme Court to be dissolved since they betrayed democracy, including Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. MSNBC is every bit as deranged as Olbermann. They're just a little more behaviorally subtle about it, but they're 100% his spawn, right? So calling him the person who created this thing, right? So there's a whole bunch of more stories there, right? The Atlantic even writes, existing American institutions, the GOP, the press, Congress, and the justice system are ill-equipped to handle an authoritarian demagogue of Trump's variety. This leaves one last way to stop him. Elections. So good, which is exactly what the lady, the Colorado Secretary of State yesterday said. So when she finds out that it was a 9-0 loss for her argument, she says, well, at least we can use elections. Without admitting she was trying to take away people's right to vote for the candidate they wanted. So really, amazing stuff. Once in a lifetime comedy stuff. Really good. Oh, one second. So really once in a lifetime type of circumstances here. You're rarely going to find this kind of humor anywhere else. Watching people's brains melt down yesterday had to be one of the funniest things ever aired on cable news. And I think when cable news finally does die, this one evening primetime broadcast is going to be studied and remembered and watched again, just to watch the feeble minds, just to watch and have an example of what lying, straight up lying, looks like, right? Because once you see someone lie, you give away their tells, and it's a lot easier to tell if they're lying again in the future. So it's not to catch these people. We know most of the people on these mainstream media networks are just straight up liars or low IQ. It's either low IQ, like they're not in on it, right? Which is really a lot of them, right? A lot of them are like that. The ones who are smart enough, like the Phil Bumps, going on television yesterday and lying the way they did, makes for comedy. And I don't think we'll ever see comedy of this quality. Well, we might get it again when the election actually happens, right? So in November, if it happens. But it really is just great stuff. Never before was it as obvious that you can watch the news for laughter. I mean, it was the greatest primetime news broadcast ever. It was better than the moon landing. It really was, as far as the amount of entertainment packed into just a few hours. Watching these people try to say a 9-0 Supreme Court win was actually a loss for Trump. I mean, it's almost impossible to get this level of comedy and humor, mental illness, low IQ kind of stuff all mixed together, right? It's really perfect. So it's excellent. And one of the fun things that happened on the same day, watching all of these lawyers, and JD Vance, who, if you guys don't know JD Vance, he is the Ohio senator, a secret Bitcoiner, I believe. I've been trying to get him to speak at our events for a little while. And JD Vance is also one of the seed investors in Rumble. So we love JD Vance. And JD Vance writes, why did so many law professors fall for a garbage legal theory the Supreme Court just struck down unanimously? Now, some people say it's just they're lying, right? That they just went out straight up, lied, and went with it that way, which is what it looks like. I mean, some of them are just stupid, but again, last night was a good example. It was one of those nights where you could see who was dumb and stupid and mentally ill and who was a liar. It was sort of more obvious than ever. And that's really valuable for people who try to analyze the news and are judging when this whole thing is going to collapse and die and fail, right? So it was really a great couple of hours for television last night, and I'm glad it happened. Now, as the legal system falls into utter disrepute in this way, and we're able to laugh off all of this stuff and see the humor in it, we have a few more instances of the US legal system running amok. One of them involves X and Twitter, and the other involves Bitcoin, obviously. Bitcoin always at the center of this stuff, right? So imagine on a day where the legal system and all of these lawyers and all of these talking head legal shills expose themselves for being either liars or mentally ill, right? So one of the two, liars or mentally ill, the day they're exposed. The old Twitter executive group sued Elon Musk, right? So Parag Agrawal was one of those guys. And the other one was that lawyer they had on Joe Rogan one time with Jack Dorsey. I forget her name. So they're suing Elon for $128 million. They said they didn't get paid enough money and blah, 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 blah. But what's going to be fun as they try and push this, I think anyway, this is my prediction for where this is headed, unless it's thrown out. I don't know. Anyway, they're going to go after Elon. But I think what's going to happen in the end is Elon is going to take out one of his messaging, I don't know about failures, weaknesses when it came to buying Twitter, which was the child exploitation piece, right? Even though he's been successful, that's what all the fake news keeps saying. That's what the fake legal analysts and the mentally ill people that are on MSNBC say, is that, oh, it's become a place for child exploitation. I think Elon is going to use that predicate in order to say he doesn't owe them any money because he spent so much time fixing their problems. So I think he's going to underline that they allowed child predators to openly operate with hashtags, and is going to be pushing for that sort of interpretation to defend himself. So that'll be interesting. But let's go to the other major legal case that I noticed yesterday. Again, this is being delivered at a time when the legal system is coming into disrepute in America. And so yesterday you had the Wall Street Journal now getting sued for defamation over the 2023 Tether Bitfinex articles that they wrote about last year, which said the Hamas funding. And remember when I said when this happened, that Bitcoiners showed at that moment, this would have been last October, November. This is the Nick Carter effort in order to use weaponized autism and all of these graph analysis people, all these people that are able to do block analysis, were able to prove that it was hardly any money that's ever gone to these terrorists, and that they forced the Wall Street Journal to rescind the article. But even though they rescinded, the time through which they didn't rescind, even though they knew the truth, knew they were lying, did leave this kind of a gap. And that's what they're being sued for in this case. So it turns out that Bitcoiners' ability to navigate this kind of stuff and force the fake news into concessions has a much bigger implication. And the implication here is that Bitcoiners have learned from the manipulation of the system. We saw exactly how this stuff works, right? You get a fake story and you cite that story, usually a leak. It's usually a fake leak, right? So then what the news does is once the fake leak comes out from the deep state, they start referring to this fake leak, which they created, which then gives them the predicate to have more power, control, whatever else they need. And this thing has been repeated time and time again. This is how the Russia collusion hoax worked the whole time. The whole Russia collusion hoax was always that. It was leak. News refers to leak, which was leaked by the people trying to get the news out there in the first place. So this was a type of information laundering. And Bitcoiners understood the formula for information laundering early and put an end to it before it metastasized into all this other stuff. So as Bitcoiners come out and start pushing for this thing, right, we have the opportunity now to really deal, I think, a fatal blow to the information laundering structure, the apparatus, the architecture of deceit, the fog of war machine, call it whatever you will. Its ability to hypnotize, persuade, move the needle looks like it's ending really, really quickly. And that's pretty fun, right? Who can complain about that? So with the system coming into disrepute in this way, you're starting to get what I think is an important movement amongst other wealthy people, people like Elon. And here's the one that I've been saying is going to be a huge deal since the beginning, since the end of 2023, and now going through 2024. And that's Jeff Bezos, right? So I've been saying that in 2024, Jeff Bezos would come out as a Bitcoiner, and that we would find out that Amazon and these other things, Blue Sky, all the things that he's sort of in control of, would start pivoting from being closely associated with the US government, with the deep state. For example, I've been arguing for a long time, the thing that sort of keeps me up at night, less so now, is why would Jeff Bezos think it's a good idea to own the Washington poop? Why? Where did Jeff Bezos wake up one day and said, I got a great idea to lose $100 million a year? Because that's what the Washington Post loses. The Washington Post loses $100 million a year employing people like Phil Bump, right? To write 3 articles of psychological manipulation a day. So where did Jeff Bezos think a shitty, ink-filled, disgusting newspaper would be a good investment opportunity and a good allocation of his capital? It was never the case, right? So to me, whenever you want to understand something and it makes no sense in these types of contexts, the X factor, the missing piece, the thing you need to solve for is the CIA, right? They're the ones that can either use the blackmail systems they use or whatever. But that's how you end up getting a situation where you can find someone like Jeff Bezos, who by all accounts is a super smart, very, very savvy, almost futurist. And why would he get involved in a shitty printed newspaper that runs disgusting psyops? Well, the choice might not have been exactly his. And who knows what promises were made years ago? Who knows why? I have no idea, no reason to believe that Jeff Bezos is good or bad. I don't know anything about it, right? All I know is there was no logical reason. It was not a business decision. Jeff Bezos owning the Washington Post has other implications that we can't see. You can explain a lot of them by just putting in the CIA as this answer for X, and it usually explains why these things are the way they are. So now we come to what Bezos is actually going to be doing now that it looks like he's trying to get out of the Washington Post. It looks like he's trying to de-risk from all of this embarrassment that's going on around U.S. institutions and U.S. Systems that would otherwise protect the country and maintain the course it's been on, or well, it's definitely maintaining the course it's been on. But nevertheless, here's what we know. Here's what Amazon just did, right? Amazon goes all in on nuclear power. AWS plans a massive 960 megawatt nuclear powered data center campus in Pennsylvania. They've acquired Talon's nuclear data center campus. This is the one that is actually mining Bitcoin, right? So this is the TeraWulf reactor that Talon started running last year, I guess. And now Amazon has acquired it. Now they're using it for Amazon Web Services, so there's no indication it's going to be used for Bitcoin mining, right? None. So that's not what I'm necessarily arguing here. But what I'm saying is, by Amazon getting involved in nuclear energy like this, they're actually dealing a fatal blow to the petrodollar. There are foreign policy and energy implications involved here. Because now, the more and more we look at it, the more and more we understand what Donald Trump did to America, the threat he posed, is that it looks like, anyway, and a Bitcoin worldview is starting to come into actual vivid contrast compared to other ways of viewing history or where we're at in this moment, which is that the World War I, right? We've mentioned it many times on this show. Bitcoin is really about ending World War I. World War I was really about a battle between war financing. And America, with fiat, which was invented at that time, with the coupled with the income tax. Those two things allowed for America to create the most amazing war finance operation the world has ever seen. And that's what allowed America to whip the Hungarian ass, the Austrian ass, the German ass. Those guys were still in a gold standard, as evidenced by their beautiful architecture and the types of societies they had built at the time. They couldn't afford the war. They sued for peace constantly during that war, and America and England and the people who had invented this new mousetrap for war finance didn't care, right? They just kept pounding them. So when they finally lost, that's when America and her allies implemented the punitive fine system, the reparation system that Germany had to pay to France and England, and which gave rise to the social breakdown of the 1920s in Germany, where things became pretty gross after the Weimar Republic collapsed. It would look a lot like an American city these days, very similar in terms of sexual attitudes and depravity and all those kinds of things. So it looks like, anyway, that as we go back to this business that America started, since the moment the US started the US dollar and the income tax system, the business of America has been war. That's it. That's the business they're in. They're in the business of war. Now, it's hard for a lot of Americans to, it was hard for a lot of Americans to accept this before, because they were so heavily brainwashed, just as I was, into accepting America as a hero of World War II and a liberator of the world. But this is not the country we're in. This is not the history that actually applies to the facts. And we're able now to rewrite a lot of this interpretation and understanding of what happened. And Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time that Bitcoin won't so much win World War III as it will end World War I, which has never ended. We've been in the perpetual war machine that was designed and implemented and created over 100 years ago and has never stopped. It just keeps doing its thing and pushing through. So one of the main predicates of this war finance machine to function the way it did was that the goal of the war machine was to acquire the resources needed in order to perpetuate more war, i.e. fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is a stupid name. They're not from fossils, by the way. Everyone understands that, right? Oil is not from a fossil. It's not dinosaur bones, right? That's another fake sort of thing that people believe is true but isn't. A mythology, I guess you could say. So from then on, America must have an appetite to prevent anyone else from getting the resources that would allow them to fight against America. That's why America was so predatory when it came to other markets for oil. Not only was it predatory for other markets for oil, it was predatory for alternatives to oil. Alternatives to oil being nuclear energy. Again, why is it that one of the greatest inventions in the history of the world, which is the nuclear submarine, was only used for war? Why is that, right? And not only used for war, and not only was the nuclear reactors that are used to power these nuclear submarines just a strange and limited application of an incredible technology. Other things like cryptographic key management innovations and things like that, which were used to maintain security of the boats, were also deployed at their most sophisticated levels. So a bunch of really sophisticated tech, cryptography included, has been included in the design and implementation of these nuclear submarines. So now that we're actually sincere in creating new, now that we're actually engaged in creating these new energy systems, you'd have to imagine that people like Bezos a generation ago were told there will be no private development of nuclear energy because of national security interests. But it looks like people like Bezos aren't playing that game anymore. And so by Bezos getting into this nuclear power game the way he is now, to me, is another sign that we're headed towards Bezos being a Bitcoiner in 2024. And it's the same kind of strategic positioning that Bezos probably has to do to survive what's coming, right? He's got to de-risk from these idiots, these complete morons that will lie and cheat and steal and tell you that a 9-0 Supreme Court loss is actually a win. So it's amazing stuff. It really is amazing stuff. But again, these things happening at the same time, the Bitcoiners learning how the system is manipulated when it comes to the Wall Street Journal article, and now someone like Jeff Bezos getting involved in nuclear power is a big change, right? A really big change. And it shows that the weapons used from before don't work anymore. Can't algae fossilize? Yeah, maybe. Fossil means dug up. I didn't know that. The only people I know who don't believe the fossil fuel psyop are people in the business. Yeah, and Nolan. Yeah. It was never made of fossil fuels. It was never made of dinosaur bones. It was a scam. So dug up fuels, the word fossil is just misunderstood, but it's the right name. Well, maybe. I don't know much about that. What I do know is the Rockefellers 100 and something years ago deliberately went to create an impression of scarcity. So if you remember 100 and something years ago, that was the start of all this fossil digging bones, dinosaur bones, and everything like that, right? After the US Civil War, a time very similar to the one we're heading into. Great exploration, great discovery, all kinds of troops going around here and there. One of the things I predict when Bitcoin does moon next time, and I heard Bitcoin Graffiti mentioning this, Bitcoiners becoming richer and richer and more influential. That's absolutely the case. Did you guys see the amazing, what's his name again? Barstool Sports guy, right? Talking about Bitcoin and how tough it is. And he goes, soon you're going to see all these Bitcoiners. All they did was buy Bitcoin and they're going around buying shit, going around houses, partying, all this stuff. One of the other things I think you're going to see are real old-fashioned expeditions, the kind that you saw when people did go out and look for dinosaur bones and shit like that 100 and something years ago. I think you're going to see Bitcoiners looking into historical things that are a part of the fake record today. That's why there was such interest in that Bitcoin Atlantis show this weekend. There is a whole era of fake history that Bitcoiners, I think, are going to fund and go explore. I think that's how you're going to get people like Joe Rogan to become a huge Bitcoiner. These guys are going to go because it's going to be hilariously fun to go discover this stuff with Bitcoiners and to understand just how much fiat hypnotism and hallucinations were injected into the historical record in order to justify what was going on and push things into their, sort of favored context and reality. So I think you're going to see, real actual Bitcoin expeditioners. Yeah, the real thing. Yeah. So you're going to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Corbett Report has a great video on the Rockefellers. Yeah. So there you go. The I think anyway, and that's what happened with the Rockefellers and fossil fuels becoming the actual title. What it was they knew everyone was out there looking for these fossils as a pop culture thing. It was like an activity, so they drafted behind that enthusiasm. And what was going on was they had trouble creating a price for oil the same way someone would have trouble creating a price for water, right? They were like, well, you just get it out of the ground. Why is it scarce? It's not scarce. There's unlimited amounts of it, just like there's unlimited amounts of water, or there's unlimited amounts of oil. And so in order to create fake scarcity, they used this thing with the there's only so many dinosaur juice out there, right? And that helped create this fake market, right? Because of course, we understand what scarcity is as Bitcoiners, and we know that in the case of oil, there is no scarcity. If you were taught in your life peak oil, which you were probably taught if you went to school in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, peak oil was just around the corner. Oh my God. Now you understand there's more oil discovered and identified in the world today than there was 30 years ago, right? We all know that. There's more oil. Now, I of course understand in absolute terms, there is less oil because we've used a lot, right? So there's, in absolute terms, less oil today than there was 30 years ago. But that's not what is going on here. We didn't have the right amount of oil estimated 30 years ago. We found so much more than we thought there was that there is absolutely zero argument for scarcity. Now, there is an argument for the extraction and the cost of extraction. That's all real, right? So I'm not saying the price of oil is fake because of the fake scarcity. We're still dealing with extraction costs, and it's still expensive, and it's not as simple as just put a straw on the ground and get water out or get oil out. So and they underestimated technological advances to dig up more efficiently. Yeah, they didn't understand fracking. Fracking was one of the big breakthroughs, that you could pump it full of water, crack all of the ground around, and more oil would seep in to fill the wells, right? That was a new invention. Now, as someone who was working with the Stephen Harper government in Canada, this was something we tracked very closely. We knew this was a huge invention, and we knew that America and Canada 20 years ago, when that government started taking power in Canada, that we would become an energy superpower if we just embraced that, right? It didn't work out. Trudeau said, no fracking. Don't do it. So Canada's now the shithole it was always meant to be. So sonic discovery, yeah. Echo techniques, yeah. But nevertheless, and look, I'm a fan of this type of fuel, right? Everyone understands what the benefit of oil is that its potential energy is equal no matter where it is in the world, and it has the capacity to work as a storage system for energy much better than anything we've been able to invent, right? If I have a gallon of oil in Siberia or here in the Caribbean, it's as useful to me in either environment. If I had a huge amount of a supercapacitor and a battery and a couple of megawatts of energy, well, I better use it soon, because the battery can't hold it for much longer, and I can't really travel with it. And if it's cold, I got troubles. It's not going to work the same. So, of course, oil has all these incredible advantages, right? But here you go, right? The de-risking of this stuff is what is important here. And the de-risking is when you get someone like Jeff Bezos going ahead and buying a huge nuclear reactor in America that's also simultaneously used to mine Bitcoin. That act, I don't want to read too much into it, but could be one seen in terms of foreign policy and energy politics, which would, I think, run contrary to what American interests would like to see in this instance, right? So I think of this as a type of protest, and I could be wrong. I'm definitely reading into it. But I think you have to read into these things, because I don't think Bezos is going to come out and say, that Joe Biden's a real dumb fuck, right? I don't think he's going to come out and say that. But what he's doing here, I think, signals to a lot of folks that it's not just a business decision. I think there's more to it. And speaking of more to it and de-risking, this is one of the more important ones you're ever going to see. And it's quite incredible. And this is something that Adam Back just shared. And it's incredible. So again, we're talking about de-risking from the dying fiat system, and where the actual risks come from and where the actual dangers lie. Again, I'm saying here that Amazon and Bezos set to become Bitcoiners in 2024 for the reasons that they need to de-risk from this dying system. We saw another big de-risk happen yesterday, and Adam Back was clever enough to find it. So as Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs, right? BlackRock, dealing one of the largest dealers of the ETF every day. They're doing billions in volume. It's going great for them. Lots of participation in their ETF. But here's what Adam Back underlined, something he found. And so it begins. BlackRock to buy Bitcoin ETFs through its 36 billion Strategic Income Opportunities Fund. And Back says, someone asked him, is it real? He says, I think so. I went looking for something more than the tweet, and this article is quoting a filing, assuming they wouldn't make this quote up. It says the fund may acquire shares in exchange-traded products, and that it is this particularly active fund that they're going to use to go buy even more. So I think you're going to start seeing more and more of this. I think you're going to start to see more and more entities like BlackRock de-risking and not carrying water for the regime any longer, right? So, and if that's not all enough, guys, today is Super Tuesday. So, Super Tuesday, if you aren't aware, if you're not from America, today is the day where we have the most states doing their primaries. So, we will imagine Trump's probably going to win a bunch today. So, you're going to get a whole new level of crying all night long. So, if you're looking for something fun to watch tonight, watching the mentally ill or liars go on camera and not consciously try to be funny, but actually create one of the funniest shows you'll ever see. It's going to happen again tonight. It's a 2-for-1. It's a double billing. So on the wake of the Supreme Court thing, they're going to have to deal with Trump winning tonight, and that's going to be pretty funny. So if you want to laugh, you're going to have some good laughs. It's going to be awesome, right? There you go. Deep sea drilling. Yeah. So imagine as Bitcoin is jumping into its all-time highs, which might happen today, right? You get the credibility of the fiat system at an all-time low, which is just perfect, right? And with Bitcoin at all-time highs and the fiat system's credibility at an all-time low, you get these amazing things happening all at once, like nuclear power plants getting bought by Jeff Bezos, and legal cases where Bitcoiners are now suing the Wall Street Journal for defamation, gonna win. And you get everyone sort of laughing at the mainstream media at a level that you can't even analyze the stuff they're saying. It's just funny. There's no reason to even think of the opinions that these entities are sharing and promoting anymore. It's just either lies or mental illness, and all of it's funny. So it doesn't get much better than this, guys. It doesn't get much better. And you know, we've been through a lot too, so we deserve it, right? It's been you know, how many years have we been doing this show now? And we watched Bitcoin nuke from where we're at now all the way down to $12,000-$13,000 and all the way back, right? And we haven't changed our point of view. We haven't changed our worldview. We haven't changed our predictions. We haven't changed our way of analyzing the world around us. It's just become more and more accurate and more and more relevant. Bitcoin Graffiti asks, can we do an all-time high? I-Ching, we can. Are we at an all-time high? Did it happen? I don't know. Let me see. Let me see where the all-time high stuff is. Oh, it's moving back. Here we go. We're almost back at 68. Yeah, let's do a little I-Ching. Let's see what I got. All right, someone try and think of a nice question. I-Ching online. All right. What's my question? All right. What do we got? I don't want to just do an all, like, is this the day where it will be an all-time high? What will Bitcoin's new, what social changes will Bitcoin's new all-time high bring? All right. So my question was, what social changes will Bitcoins know? Okay. I think my question is good. What social changes will Bitcoin's all-time high bring? I'm not sure if there's anything wrong with show coins virtually. Okay, we got the cast hexagram 49. Read. Oh, all-time high today. I see. Well, I asked the question. It gave me 49. I'm going to read what it says. It says revolution. All right. Fire ignites within the lake, defying conditions that would deny it birth or survival. The superior person reads the signs of the times that make the season apparent to all. The support you need will come only after the deed is done. Renewed forces, however, will provide fresh energy for exceptional progress. Persevere. All differences vanish. Situation analysis. A revolutionary change must be made forcibly. There is no negotiating with the established order. Perfect timing is essential. Let the abuse of power become apparent and oppressive to those around you before making your move. Perfect. Lay the groundwork, sow the seeds for revolution without tipping your hand prematurely. You will need a strong foundation because you will have to bring about the necessary change alone. You cannot count on popular support. You must wait until there is massive dissent. Then the avenue for your assault will be cleared. There we go. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So there you go. Revolution. Can't argue with the I-Ching, guys. You can't argue with it. All right, let me see what people are saying on Rumble. AI in-depth magic 8-ball. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, pretty neat reading, huh? Pretty neat. I don't think we've ever failed Bitcoin Graffiti as far as getting a really cool reading from that thing. Count BTC says, all right. Trump runs the table today. Yeah, you'll probably win all of them. Your I-Chings are always incredibly good. Is today the day BTC makes a new all-time high? No camera, dude. Apple is tanking. Good. I switched from Apple back to Windows years ago, Connector says. I guess Linux will be next. Tom Milhan says, good morning, my plebs. Paradox, Linux and Nextcloud for the win. Sovereign clouds and open source operating systems. Android, why wait? I know, Big Baby G. Ubuntu is the new Windows, Royco Cup says. The Suntech is flawless, Tom writes. Looks like Darth Vader pulled the plug on you first. I've got spinning rumble green circle. Uh-oh. My sister worked with Tim Cook in 80s at IBM. Is that so? He was probably an idiot then. Windows users do have to develop their troubleshooting muscles. Don't forget the thumbs up button, indeed. For your Moscow time headline collecting, look to Zotero app. I will. Connector plugin. Why store your data in a cloud? Would you give your child to a stranger? My cloud is my NAS. Yeah, Don Bully, it's not really important stuff. It really is just screenshots and notes. Like I erase them all later anyway. I don't really keep them around. So it's not I'm not storing important data if you understand what I mean. If you're into freedom, maybe have a Linux computer. It's not such a bad idea. I agree, Royco. I just don't want to get stuck to learning about it. I hate learning about this shit. I use Linux as an OS and Lineage OS on my phone. Don says, I just say there are plenty of Linux distros out there, not just Ubuntu. For example, I use Linux Mint with a cinnamon. See, I don't want to learn all that stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot. Hopefully AWS infrastructure isn't abused for shit coins and that miner isn't priced out. Yeah. The I-Ching is perfect as always. Thanks, Narwhal Tacos. I'm late. Good morning, Breakup crew. Good morning, CB Van. All right, let's see what the folks over on Bitcoin Magazine are saying. Let's see what the Bitcoin magaziners are saying. Here we go. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Next block coming. Yeah, everyone. Linux. I used to laugh at Linux. I was wrong. I built my node from scratch with Arch Linux. Still in process of setting up Lightning node. 68K, close to 69. I refuse to use or let other people use Windows at my house. I knew if they only knew how much they're being spied on. Yeah. Anyone that runs a Bitcoin node on Windows is not thinking correctly. Yeah, probably. All right, team. Thanks, Vito1327. Thanks for everyone giving me some encouragement to move over to not learn. Yeah. Kids mine are grown. I have no excuse to learn Linux, to not learn. Yeah. Yeah, neither do I. Well, we'll have to wait for Bezos for that one. Yeah. Yeah, it was 49 Bitcoin graffiti. Yeah. It was hexagram 49. All right, team. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. We'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy today. Today is another one. I think today is like there's only been 2-3 days where Bitcoin was higher in its history. So amazing. All right. Peace.